Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am very happy to inform you that I am recording my last video of the night. So after this, I am going to get some sleep that I feel is well reserved. I will be retiring to my Star Wars themed bedroom. Don't you dare make fun of me. In this video, we are talking about the Atlanta Hawks and how they used the 6th overall pick. And obviously, they used it on Onyeka Okongwu, so I'll be sharing my thoughts on that. But before I get into that, as always, I will remind you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It is much appreciated, and I love the support. Love it. Alright, without further ado, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks and Onyeka Okongwu. This was an interesting pick. Pretty surprising to me. Didn't think the Hawks were going to draft a center because they obviously have Clint Capella as a guy who is their starting center right now, and they gave up a first-round pick in that draft to get him. So I didn't really think that they would immediately draft a center to maybe be his replacement, but it looks like he could be on his way out. However, before we talk about any sort of trades with this center group, can we just acknowledge how perfect it is? All their names start with the first name and the last name start with the same letter. We have Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, Dwayne Dedman. That is alliteration right there. My English teacher would be so proud of me. Oh, and even better for the fourth center on this team, because they have 4 centers now. John Hollinger would love that. He loves centers. They have Bruno Fernando, so both end in O. So I just thought that was really fun. Anyways, back to basketball. The reason why you're watching this video probably don't care about my weird obsession with the first name and last name starting with the same letter. This is an interesting pick. Clint Capella is pretty much a comparison that I could see working for Onyeka Okongwu as a limited big man on the offensive end who's pretty good at rolling to the rim and is an elite finisher. And on defense is kind of versatile, can switch around, and is also a pretty good rim protector. So pretty much they just said, hey, Onyeka, we're going to draft you, and you're going to back up the guy that we would like you to become. But I do think Onyeka has more upside than Clint Capella, because if Onyeka can develop his perimeter game and become a three-point shooter, he could be pretty dangerous. So I do kind of like this pick. I think that he was one of the better players on the board. I would have rather seen them gone with Tyrese Halliburton and Denny Avdia because it would have both fit the roster and fulfilled a need. And it also would have been a similar tier of prospect in my opinion, but clearly they really like Onyeka Okongwu. For flashes of time, I've been like, okay, this guy's better than Wiseman. He's the best big in the draft, but then I watch Wiseman a little bit, and I see the 7'6" wingspan, and I remember why I am so high on James Wiseman. But I think Okongwu has a chance to be a really good big man as well. I think he's going to end up being a top 10 center. I think that Clint Capella would be a pretty median outcome for him. I think there's a chance that he outperforms that and becomes a really good borderline all-star level center, a top 50 player in the league. But I also think that there's a chance that he is a 20th best center in the NBA, which there's nothing wrong with, and that's a pretty good floor. So you're getting a pretty safe pick here, in my opinion. Obviously, we had all the news about his broken toe, but it's a broken toe. I'm not really sure that it matters. And if we can see him develop pick and roll chemistry with Trae Young, he complements John Collins kind of well in the front court, as Collins can play on the perimeter a little bit, and Okongwu can help cover up for some of Collins' lackluster defense. So I really like this front court, and I think it's definitely something the Hawks should look to for the future. That brings up the question of trading Clint Capella, who's got a $16 million contract. Kind of seems like it would be good if he got traded to a team that needs a center but also has a $17 million trade exception. Oh, what's that? Golden State drafted James Wiseman. Oh, darn, never mind. Guess that takes them out of the running. Sorry, I am really not funny, am I? But back to the Atlanta Hawks. Clint Capella, trade destinations, could be something out there. The Charlotte Hornets, just talked about them, just got LaMelo Ball. Kind of cool. Think that they could be in the running for Clint Capella. Not sure what they would give up. Maybe Miles Bridges for Clint Capella. Miles Bridges and a pick for Clint Capella is an idea that we start thinking about. I definitely think that's a possibility. But overall, even if they do keep Capella around, they've got one of the better starting center and backup center combinations in the entire NBA up there with, I guess there aren't really all that many. So yeah, maybe the best starting center backup center combination in the whole NBA with two guys that have some positional versatility and can guard multiple positions, can probably guard like 3 through 5, can protect the rim. Once again, are reliable finishers in the pick and roll. They do kind of the same stuff, which makes it a little weird, but you're getting 48 minutes out of the center position that you really like, and I don't think that this is really a pick for now. I think Okongwu is probably going to take a year, learn from Capella, and then probably take over that starting gig after a season and hopefully be their big man for the future. I really like this team. I really like Cam Reddish. I have expressed that on multiple occasions that I'm a big fan of his, and I believe that he is going to develop into a solid starter level player in the NBA, especially he can figure out that jump shot. That's really what's been plaguing him, and he's really athletic. He can finish at the rim, and he's a good defensive player. So if he can figure out the jumper, his defensive versatility is going to make him super valuable alongside Trae Young, and I think that he is the best non Trae Young, John Collins young player that this team has, and they should really focus on developing him. I like Kevin Huerter as a guy who is probably going to be a gunner off the bench at where he can be utilized to his fullest, in my opinion, is as a sixth man who can really shoot it. DeAndre Hunter can be a defensive specialist for you with maybe some Andre Iguodala upside if he can become a better playmaker. I also really, really like Skylar Mays. I think that that was a great second-round pick. I have him 35th on my big board, and they got him at 50. One of the better second-round picks, in my opinion. I think he could be perfect alongside Trae Young. I think he'll probably be on a two-way contract for this season, but if we see improvement from him, see him develop into that really good kind of 3-and-D player I think he can potentially become. He could be a really nice option in the wing rotation for this team, and I just love that second-round pick for them. Overall, like I said, like this team, but they have a lot of cap space. I think $42 million-ish in free agency, so there's some guys that I think they can target that are pretty big names. First of all, the fact they didn't draft Tyrese Halliburton kind of indicates to me that maybe they have some interest in slightly older Tyrese Halliburton, and by that I mean DeAnthony Melton. Similar defensive capabilities. The only thing that Halliburton does much better is shoot the ball, as Melton's like a 29% three-point shooter for his career. But if he can make improvements there, then you've got yourself a really, really solid wing, really secondary playmaker, secondary ball handler option to pair up with Trae Young in the backcourt. Melton would be a guy I'd be super interested in because he can cover up for some of Young's weaknesses on the defensive end of the floor while also having a shot at being a decent offensive player, especially if that jump shot ends up working itself out. And I'm a big believer in him, and I really think that he's a guy the Hawks should consider. Something like 4 years, $50 million might be able to get it done, and even if it can't, I think 4 years, $60 million would be something I would do because I think that this guy is going to be an impact player. He's still really, really young, and I think he would be the perfect backcourt partner for Trae Young. If they can't get him, Gordon Hayward is another option. With the Celtics drafting Aaron Nesmith, a wing, obviously, it's looking more and more like Hayward might be an odd man out there. Looks like he might opt out of his player option. I think tomorrow is the deadline for that for him. So if he does, the Hawks could be a really nice destination for him. He could improve their roster a ton. He could come in and be their secondary playmaker, space the floor well, play good team defense, and just be the Gordon Hayward we all know and love. Hopefully he can stay healthy in a Hawks uniform because he was apparently cursed in that Celtics uniform. I think he could bring a lot to this team and help improve them overall, take some of the ball handling load off of Trae Young and allow Trae to maybe do some Steph Curry stuff, be the Andre Iguodala to Trae Steph Curry, and let him run off of some off-the-ball movement and knock down some threes off of like I don't know, baseline dashing, trying to get open. So I think that that could be a very exciting option as well. Melton and Hayward are the two big names I would consider. If they can't get those two guys, they could fill up their cap space on some smaller guys. Chris Dunn would be one I would consider because he's pretty much DeAnthony Melton, but I have less confidence in his jump shot, and he's a bit older, I think. So, another guy who you could pair up with Trae Young in the backcourt and be a really nice fit, especially if that jump shot comes along. I think he had a season where he shot it at 35%, so hopefully he gets back to that instead of like the 25% he shot it at this year, because if that's what he's got, it's not very good. But he is an all defense level defender, and if you have Trae Young, you're going to have to pair him up with small defense level defenders because worst defender in the NBA. Him and Colin Sexton, it's a debate. And finally, they got to adjust that backup point guard spot. Jordan McLaughlin is a guy that I really like. McLaughlin, whatever. I've heard it pronounced different ways. I think he's going to be a solid backup point guard. Really good playmaker, can handle the ball, solid on defense. So, type of guy you want to bring in. DJ Augustine would be another idea. They just got to shore up that backup point guard spot because Jeff Teague didn't get it done this past year, and before him, Evan Turner wasn't getting it done. So they got to address that and make improvements there so that they can be a better team when Trae Young is off the floor. But really, I like this pick. I'm okay with it. I don't love it. I would have rather seen Halliburton or Avdia, but I do think Okongwu is going to end up being a solid NBA player, a good starting center in the NBA with a chance to maybe be an all-star one day. So I would probably, if I were grading this trade for this draft for the Hawks, I would probably give it a B plus, a B for Onyeka Okongwu, and it gets moved up to a B plus because Skylar Mays is a guy who has really earned me as a fan. Moving forward, I think that the roster as assembled currently is probably a 35-win team, and maybe that's enough for the 8th seed in the East next year, but probably not. But I do think that there's a good chance they make the playoffs, especially if they sign DeAnthony Melton or Gordon Hayward. I think that probably vaults them into the 40-win team conversation, especially Hayward. Hayward could maybe get them to 45 wins because I'm pretty bullish on Cam Reddish's prospects, and I also think that John Collins is going to take a jump forward in his three-point shooting and defense. So maybe be an all-star next year. John Collins, sneaky. Maybe I should make a video just about this. I couldn't make a video about this team. I just made one. But I think signing Gordon Hayward or DeAnthony Melton would be a great move for them. And I don't think I need to have any more ands. I've covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. So leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this video. What do you think about Onyeka Okongwu? What should the Hornets, wrong H team, Hawks, what should the Hawks do with their cap space and free agency? And how many games do you think the Hawks are going to win next year? I think that's it for me, and ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon, but not tonight because I'm going to bed.